Yeah, hello, Maxim. Uh, I'm okay. I think Maxim is having a little problem with his screen, so please bear with us. He'll be back soon. Thank you.
Hello, can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we
Yeah.
can.
Okay. Let's begin. So I'm going to join. All right, we have an IP. So as usual, we start with our nmap scan. Then I'm going to call it iclean.nmap. Right. Now this can take some time to run, so I've already. I'm just going to read the contents of that file. All right. So we have two ports open. We have 22 and port 22 SSH, and then we have HTTP open. Now, normally when you see SSH and 80 port 80 open, you normally go for 80 because 80 is normally like a low hanging fruit as compared to SSH. SSH has very few like remote code execution vulnerabilities. So like it's not something that you go for most of the time. So after enumerating HTTP for some time and then maybe you're still not getting anything substantial, then maybe you can move on to SSH and see what you find there. All right, so I'm just going to put the IP in my browser and then okay. So I need to it's trying to access this particular domain, right? I need to add it to my host file. So I'm going to add it to my host file. Studio. Yes. All right. Oh, okay. So I've added to the host file now. I'm going to reload the page and see what the web page has to offer. Uh, this looks interesting. Okay, so website's called Copy Clean. Copy Clean. Says copyright. All rights reserved. Copied. All rights reserved by Copy Clean. Now, normally, if I'm going to a web application, look at like the names, like the name at the copyright side, right? To see whether maybe Copy Clean is maybe it could be a CMS, right? Yeah, it's normally not always the case, right? But sometimes it could be a CMS, so I can just search for it and let's see what will return. Okay, we are not finding anything useful over here, right? So I'm going to go back to the application and we save the application. Another thing I like to do is to check the or inspect the source just to see any links, right? So that I don't have to like I don't miss anything. So you can see the services about and choose and team or like they are all valid links, like they all lead somewhere. It's normally when you see a hashtag or the name with a hashtag behind it, it means that it's off to the repeater, and then now we can play around with the various fields. Right. So I'm guessing I'm guessing that this request is actually sent to the website administrator, right? And you realize that when we like inside our directory before, anytime we go to the slash dashboard, right, we are redirected back to login, or we are redirected to login. So let's go to dashboard and let's see something. We'll be redirected back to the login or the home page. Yes, the home page. We are redirected back to the home page. Now I'm going to inspect the page, right? And I'm going to see whether it has any like form of website cookies or anything, even if we are not logged in. Because there's some websites like that. They can assign cookies to you even if you are not logged in. All right, so I'm just going to look through to see if we have any cookies. Nah, it doesn't look like we have any cookies. But then I'm guessing that like when you finally log in, right, you actually be assigned a cookie, and the cookie is what helps you like persist your session, or let helps the website know that like you like that particular session is your session, and then it keeps you signed in all the time, so that when you perform an action, you don't have to log in or re-enter your credentials to perform every single action on the website. So what we are going to do is that we're going to test the website for XSS, right? And the XSS payload we'll be using, we'll be trying to grab, or we are going to attempt to grab the administrator's token, right? The administrator's cookie. So we are going to try some XSS payloads, and then we would grab the administrator's token. So we'll first test each parameter over here. We'll test the service parameter, and then we'll also test the email parameter. I'm going to first start with the email. Now, the first XSS injection I'm going to try is I'm just going to make that harmless, right? So that just XSS on the website. So with that one, I'll just start an HTTP server. I'll just start an let me get my IP address. All right, so this is my IP address. So I'm going to I'm going to insert an XSS payload, or should I even call it XSS? Okay, it's a normal IMG tag. It's a normal HTML IMG tag, image tag, right? But I'm going to set the source to my web server, right? Now, if the admin views that particular request, right, a request will get sent to my HTTP server, and then from that I can tell that that particular site is vulnerable to XSS. So let's just do that. Let's just test that and see how that goes. It could work or not. So it's an IMG tag. I'm going to set the source to my website in my HP server on port 8000. Then I close it up. Now, because of encoding purposes, I'm replacing the spaces with um, I'm replacing the spaces with plus signs. Now, when you encode a space, like when you URL encode a space, it gives you a plus sign. So I'm going to send this request, and then let's check my HP server to see if we have any requests coming in. All right, let's just wait a while and see to see if we get a request coming in. So if that doesn't work, right, we'll test the other parameters. So I'm going to test the other parameters. I'm going to test the service parameter. Go to so admin.com. And this time I'm going to test one of the service parameters and see. The request is gone. Let's check our server, see if we get any requests coming in. Okay, wow. We have an HTB request, which means the site is possibly vulnerable to what? XSS, right? Because, okay, I wouldn't say XSS right now because we didn't inject any JavaScript, right? It's just a normal HTML tag. All right, so I'm going to craft my payload, but this time I'm going to do something a bit more malicious. I'm going to try to grab the administrator's cookie. Um, and for that, we would need to, if you want to grab the administrator's cookie, right? For that one, we'll need some JavaScript. We can't just do that with HTML. So I don't know if you guys can see my payload properly. Let me just open up Notepad. Let me increase. Okay, it's already big. So initially, this was the payload I was using. IMG SRC. That's a source. It's equal to then my link. Then I close this, right? So when the person tries to load a page, it will create a request. But on then this particular web page could be vulnerable, or like it doesn't do any proper input sanitization. So then I know that like it's vulnerable to XSS, right? This time we want to escalate the attack, right? We want to be able to steal the administrator's cookies. So we are going to set the source, or like the source of the image, to an X. Now immediately we do this, right? When we do this, it is going to error out. And HTML has some very nice features that allow us to be able to execute some JavaScript when like maybe an image is not properly pulled right from its source, right? So for example, if you are like you taking it from a web developer's perspective, right? If you are developing a web application and maybe you feel that your website is made up of a lot of images, right? And if any of them doesn't load, it will make the page really ugly, right? So you can put some JavaScript there and say that, oh, the page is loading or something. You understand? That this is just a scenario, right? But over here, we are going to take advantage of that particular. We are going to take advantage of that particular feature, and then we are going to execute some JavaScript. So in JavaScript, you can use this. You can use this fetch function. Now, this fetch function is basically going to create a request to our server. It's going to create a request to our server, right? And we are going to append. We are going to say that we want to append the documents. We want to append documents.cookie. Now, anytime like you load a web page, right? The web page is viewed as a document, right? So the entire web page is viewed as a document, right? So we are saying that we want a cookie. We want the cookie that is inside that particular document. So when the administrator views that particular link, right, it's going to look for what the cookie inside that particular administrator's web page or the document, right? And then it would append it to this link and send it as a get parameter. So I'm going to call this cookie. I'm going to call this get parameter cookie. Right? I'm going to say cookie. Sorry. So I'm going to say, and cookie is equal to a document or cookie. I'm going to copy this. Then I'll send it. Then I'm going to use that as my payload over here. So we found out that this service parameter is vulnerable to XSS, right? Or maybe it's even HTML injection. Normally when you get an XSS injection, right, it can also be HTML. Mostly it's also HTML, right? Because if XSS can work, then the probability that HTML will also work is very high. All right, so let's send in the request and see whether we get anything on our server. I think it takes some time for them to review the request. So it will take some time for us to get the request on our server and then be able to steal the administrator's cookie. Now you realize this is like it's a similar thing It's similar to what we did in headless. It's similar to what we did in headless. It's also about XSS and how to still easy session cooking. Now these things actually exist in like real life. Understand? If you find an XSS vulnerability, you can use to steal someone's cookie. Alright, so you can see that session is equal to EY blah blah blah. So we've been able to steal the administrator's session token. I'm just going to copy off this token and then I would import it in that particular web page, right? So I go to the storage session, create a new attribute. I'm going to create a new session cookie, right? Now, on every request, this session cookie is going to be sent along. Then I paste the value here. All right, so it has been successfully. Now, remember, when we are going to dashboard, anytime we go to dashboard, like, it redirects us to the home page. But currently, because we have the administration cookie, right, it's going to take us to the dashboard. And completed our first attack on this particular box. We've been able to get to the admin dashboard. Now on the admin dashboard, we have a lot of very interesting things over here. We have generate invoice, we have generate QR, we have edit services, we have quote requests. Right. So we can actually take time to browse all these links and see what they contain. As usual, I like to look at the page source just to see if there are any other extra links that are actually not being displayed or they are not being rendered on the page. Right, so we have invoice generator, we have blah blah blah. Okay, so we have four of them over here. I can't scroll, so I guess that is it. That's all. Right. So first, I'm going to try is to check out the invoice generator. Okay. So it looks like it generates an invoice based on the parameters you give it. Right. So I'm going to enter some parameters, right? We are currently in the testing phase, right? We want to see if the website is vulnerable to any other attacks, right? So let me just enter the quantity as 2 over here. Project. I'm just going to say hack client. I'm going to say master address. Let's just say bank. Email says test. Then I click on generate. Alright, so it's just giving us an invoice ID. So when I'm guessing this invoice ID can be used for something else, right? Let's go back to the dashboard and see, because we had a couple of options there. So when you generate an invoice, it just creates or it just gives you an invoice ID. Oh, we have another feature here called generate QR. Let's check that out. Oh, okay. This is interesting. So we can paste in the invoice ID here, and then we can generate a QR code for that particular invoice. So I'm guessing that when you're able to generate the QR, you can scan it and then you can view that particular invoice. Okay. So this is the.
Sam, is this Jeffrey has have a question?
Okay, yeah. You can ask.
I was asking that is it all the time that documents.cookie actually gets the cookie for us?
Yeah. But it depends on how the developer develop the website, right? Some people might choose to keep the cookie inside the cookie tab, right? Inside the cookie tab.
Okay.
Others will also choose to save the cookie in local storage.
Okay.
Yeah. But you can test for all of them. There are also ways you can also grab things from the local storage. But normally, the normal default way of keeping session cookies, right, is to store it inside the cookie variable.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So we just have a QR code over here, right? Upon visiting that link, we have a QR code over here. Now it looks like there's another feature here that says insert QR link to generate scannable invoice. All right, so it's saying it's going to generate a scannable invoice for us. So let's just copy this link and paste it in here. Let's see what the invoice looks like. Right. Oh, this is interesting. So it's generating a scannable invoice for us. Now this this doesn't quite look like what I even entered, because you can see that I entered something for projects, right? But there's nothing over here. I entered something for clients, but there's nothing here. Address is nothing here. Turns out that I think this is just some random invoice generator. It doesn't really generate a proper invoice. You see that the invoice number changed over here, and then the workmanship price changed. The basic cleaning also changed. You just look at it carefully. I'll refresh the page and you see what will happen. So it's not really generating an invoice based on my inputs, right? It looks like, I think I looked at the source of the page, the source code for that page, and then it looks like they're just even using JavaScript to generate some random values. So you see what I'm talking about over here. They are using math.random, right? And then they are appending some other strings. I think this is it's converting ASCII to normal strings, right? And then is changing the elements random string, text content of that element, and then change it to invoice plus R, right? Over here over here they calculated R, or like they found the value of R over here. They just did math.random plus one, and then they converted it to a string. And then I think they also converted this to a substring. You can basically do a search on this, right? These JavaScript methods and see what's happening over here. But what I can infer from here is that they are just generating random strings for us. They are not really really fixed. You understand? It's not based on the inputs that I give it that is generating this. You can see there's another one here that is also generating some random prices for us. All right, so I'm guessing that it's not even generating the QR codes that on based on our outputs. So based on the inputs that we entered some time ago. I'm going to go back to the dashboard and let's see what else we can find on the dashboard. And then we have edit services. So initially what I was thinking was that if I come to edit services, right, I can pick any of these services, right? And anytime you are working with an application, right? Over here, I didn't speak about it, but this is a Flask application. Wapalizer even tells us that. Wapalizer tells us that this is a Flask application. Now, anytime you are dealing with a Flask or Python-like application, and your aim is to get like remote code execution, right? One of the things you would normally think of is SSTI, right? That's just one of the things you think of, right? There are other ways of getting remote code execution, but when it comes to CTFs, right, a lot of people would like to center it on SSTI. So I was thinking that maybe I could edit one of these services, right? I will change the name of the service to some SSTI payload and see if, or probably the price, right? And see if it's going to, maybe it's going to run that particular, it's going to run it, and then maybe I get code execution. I tried that, but it didn't work. So I don't spend, I don't spend time on that, right? Because we have other things to do. We've not yet had initial foothold. It's almost an hour is gone. Almost an hour is gone. All right, so it looks like we can generate an invoice, generate QR, and then edit services, and then what's the last one is what quote requests. Let's look at quote requests and see what is also over there. Okay. Okay, so you realize that when we actually got Muslim, we actually were able to attain XSS injection, right, by giving or creating a quote request. So it looks like the administrator came to view this quote request over here, and then that's when the XSS payload got executed, and then we had the person's cookie. right? So this is the feature that we abused to be able to get the administrator's cookie. Let's go back to the dashboard. I want to show you something that I realized while like going through the application. So let's generate another invoice. I'm going to set the quantity to 4, right? The project's name, like take note of them, right? I'm going to use some SSTI payload over here. You see that nothing significant will happen. So at the project name, I'm putting an SSTI payload over here. Just hoping that maybe if I render it, maybe this thing gets executed. Let's just check if that thing works, right? Client, I'm going to call the client Jack. I'm going to call this bank and then email test at mailer.com and I'll generate a new invoice. Let's go back to the dashboard. Let's generate a QR for it. So let's generate a QR. So as usual, we just enter invoice ID and then click on generate. This time, right, I want to see if this particular input even depends on the link that we give it over here, right? I want to see if it even uses this link that we give it over here. So I'm going to enter something else, not even that link. I'm just going to say HTTP test.com and then I'm going to hit enter and see whether it will generate the QR for me. It would, yeah. Now, there's something very interesting happening over here. You need to be very careful. Like you need to be very steady to actually notice this particular thing. You realize that when we generated the other one, right, the QR code was displayed over here, right? But over here, you can see that there's no QR code displayed over here. We can just see QR code like the letters, or like you can just see the writing QR code over here. I'm going to look at the page source and let's see what is happening at that particular point. Now, if you look, you can see that the http got appended to it. So I'm guessing that what is happening is that it's going to pick this QR code URL, right? It will change to base64 and append it to this. Then the HTML can display it on the page. So from this alone, we can see that we have an injection point, right? Because any inputs that we put here gets like displayed on the page, or it gets rendered on the page, right? So I think we've identified something over here that we can test. We can test for SSTI payloads. We can put SSTI payloads and other stuff over here to see if it will actually work or see if it will work. I think I already have this request captured in back because I have my interceptor, because I have my proxy on. I just have to locate it. What's the name of the endpoint again? QR generator. Okay. So I just have to look for the endpoint QR generator. Actually, I should have filtered this when I began, right? But I forgot to do that. This invoice generator. I'm looking for QR. Oh, this is just so much. Okay, we have QR generator here. And you can see, let me just take that to repeater. You can see this is the link I entered earlier on, right? So instead of this link, I'm going to enter other stuff. Like I'm just going to enter another input. But this time I'm not going to make it a link. I just want to verify to see whether maybe it's actually filtering and trying to sanitize the input and actually checking whether it's a link. So maybe on the developer side, they are checking whether maybe the link begins with HTTP, you understand? Now, if it begins with ATP, maybe they'll allow the thing. If it doesn't begin with ATP, maybe they'll deny it. You understand? So I'm just trying to check whether they're actually verifying and checking whether it's a link that I'm sending. So I'm just going to put some random text over here. I'm just going to put hello here. Send in the request and let's see. So it gets rendered. And then you can see that the hello was returned over here, which means that they are not doing any filtering. Let me put an SSTI payload over there. 7 times 7. That should give us 49, right? Let's send in this request and see what happens. When you scroll down, right, you can see that it gets executed. Oh. We have 49 over here. You understand? Which means that this particular code that I entered is being rendered by the templates, the Ginger templates engine, and then the output is returned to this place. Now, in order to make it neat, right, I'm just going to close. I'm just going to close. Yeah, I'm just going to close this opening quotation mark, right, and then I'm just going to give it another name, another element's name. I'm just going to say href is equal to this, right? Then, let me see. Okay, so let's send this in and let's see what it looks like.
HF.
Yeah, I just changed that. Okay, so you can see what it looks like now. So we can see href is equal to 49. Now let's try some other interesting SSTI payloads. I'm going to do config. Let's see what that gives us. You can see the config of the Flask application is being displayed to us over here. So we have what is it? We have propagate exception. Some of them are kind of encoded, so you can decode them and actually see what it is. Let me see if that automatically does that for us. Okay, so you can see this. You can see it over here. So propagate exceptions. None is what secret key. Okay. So this is actually the secret key. The secret key is what is used to sign cookies, right? So once we have the secret key, we can even sign new cookies for ourselves, and then we can log into the application with those cookies. But no need, we already have administrator access to the machine. What we are focused on right now is getting code execution. All right. I'm going to do dir. Okay, I missed the dots here. Okay, the web page is just erroring out. So, like when I was doing this box, I realized that I think there's some form of protection against SSTI in like newer versions of Flask, right? So we need to do some bypasses and stuff. I was able to get this payload that worked perfectly for me. So, but that payload is just gives us remote code execution, right? So we are going to use that payload. We'll get remote code execution. We'll get a shell on the system, and then we'll see where we move on from there. We'll see what's next from there. All right, so I'm going to start my list now. So RL wrap NCLP 8989. All right, so I send in the request and see whether I get. Well, before I even proceed, let me check the IP address and see if it's the right IP address. Okay, that's this 214. I'm on 214. So let me just change that from the payload 214, and then I send the request. Oh, it's hanging. That's already good news for me, because I know that if it's hanging, then probably I have a shell. So voila, we have a shell as a user. Let's see which user will be. We got in as www data. That's quite unfortunate. We need to escalate to another user. I think with normally with hack the box, right? You get in as www data, you need to escalate to another user before you escalate to root. On certain occasions, maybe you could actually just get to root. Now, one thing I like to do is that I like to read the source code when I get access to the machine. But for the sake of time, I'm not going to go through all this. I'm just going to go straight to the point, right? So let's check our current location. Where are we? We're in the ops directory, and then we're inside the app directory in the ops directory, right? pwd. Okay, so let's just go 2 times backwards. Go to the home directory, the root directory, and let's go into the home directory. Let's see what's there. All right, so we have a user called Consuela. We have a user called Consuela. All right. Now, one thing I like to do is to check the running processes when I get access to a machine because I want to know which user is running what application, right? So if you're able to compromise that particular application the user is running, right, we can, if you're able to compromise that, if you're able to compromise that application that the user is running as, right, we can get access to the box as that particular user. Over here, it's quite unfortunate. I don't know whether I think some see the output of other processes, so of other users, of other uh, of other programs that were started by other users, right? So we can only see our user, the processes that were started by our user. That is www data. All right. Normally, I also like to check the mail of that particular user. Let's see. Okay. So this read the mail and see maybe it could give us an idea on how to escalate to that particular user. Now, let's read the mail. So we have read access to that particular mail. Let's see what it says. Hey Consuela, hey Consuela, have a look at the invoices. I've been receiving some weird PDFs lately regards management. I see. Okay, so she's saying, or someone, I think management wrote an email to Consuela saying that they've been seeing some weird PDFs lately. Oh, let's let's keep looking and see what we'll find. Okay, let me see if we even have any sudo rights on this box. I know probably we don't, but I'm just I don't think we have. Let's go back. I also like to look in the ops directory. That's nothing really interesting. It's just the app. Already looking for a way to escalate privileges as Consuela. I'm going to see if there are any other running services on this box. All right, so we have 3,000 opened, which is how we even so we have 3,000 opened locally. Let's kill that and see. Let's see which kind of application is that. 7.0.0.1 on 3,000. It's interesting. Is that there's another website being hosted on this box that we have to find, and I'm sure that websites will be running as Consuela. From the looks of things. Oh wait. Okay, it's the same Flask application. Yeah, because we have choose about services in the home folder here. So it looks like the same Flask application that is running on that port. Let's check the other ports and see. We have 3306 running, and we have some other pods running too. Okay, so currently we have 3306 running. I'm thinking that maybe we could find some interesting the database because it looks like you have a MySQL. I went off for a while. My internet was just messing up. Right, so let's continue from where I left off. I'm sharing my screen. Hope you guys can see my screen. Alright, so I went back to the app directory, right? And looking through the Python code that was being run, right? I was able to get some credentials, right? So we have the user iClean, and then we have the password, this password over here. And let's see what exactly that is being used for. I think so. We have db config over here. Let's see where db config is being used in this code. But remember that we even did some enumeration. I realized that this MySQL server was running. All right, so you can see some cursor.execute over here. It's using some db.config. But the most important thing is you can see Py MySQL over here. So they are using Python to connect to MySQL, and then they are using it to run some queries on the web application. So what I'm going to use, MySQL, right, with the user iClean, and then password. Wait to enter the password and see whether we can get access to the MySQL server. Oh, I just remembered. I don't have a stable shell, so this was just going to hang. Let me resend. We have a shell again. So Python 3 -c import pty.spawn
Import.
then bash.
Import.
Okay, thanks. All right. Okay. So we have a stable shell now. So let me just do MySQL -u, and we have iClean with the password. Enter the password. Oh, nice. So over here, I'm going to show databases, right? I want to see the available databases to us, and we'll see which ones we are interested in. Now, information schema and performance schema are like default databases that you always find in MySQL. So the one that is really interesting for us is the CapyClean database. So I'm going to use that database. I'm going to use CapyClean, and it says I've changed my database. So under that particular database, I want to see the tables that we have in that good services on users. What we're interested in is users. Probably there's a user on the box that also has a user account inside the application, and maybe you could use their password to try a login attempt to see if we can get anything. So I'm going to select start from the users table, right? And see what we can find there. Oh, so we have admin, and then we have consuela. Now I realize that we already have another user on the box called consuela. So it's possible that maybe consuela could be using the same password for the application and then the machine itself. So I'm just going to create a new hash vim, and I'm going to call it consuela.hash, right? I'll be using hashcards to crack it. Oh, I already have that in here. For the purposes of the video, let me just clear this and then paste in the new one, right? It's basically the same thing. I'm going to use hashcards to determine which kind of hash this is. I'm guessing this is like SHA-256, but let's see. It's SHA-256. So I'm going to send it to 1400, and then I'll give it the word list to use. That's rock you. Okay, it says I've already cracked the hash, right? So I can just use the show command to find the password. So the password is simple and clean. So that's the password for the consuela user. Now let's exit from this shell and see whether we can use that to get access as consuela, or to switch the user to consuela. Okay, ask for the password, enter the password. Oh, nice. We are currently consuela. Before they explode the box, we didn't really find anything substantial. One thing we can do is to check the processes, right? PX, A, UX, WW. We can't really see it. It looks like it's been. I'm sure there's something that's running on the box. Maybe I might research into it later. That is preventing us from seeing. There's something that is preventing us from seeing the processes that other users are running on the box. I think PS Pi can bypass that in some cases. Yeah, in some cases, that. But over here, we are not really finding much. Let's look at the pseudo privileges that Consuela has. All right, we need to enter a password. Oh, and we can see Consuela can run QPDF as any user. So you can run QPDF as all users on the box. Like any user she wants to run on the box with, she can do that. So what we are going to do is that we are just going to look at what QPDF is, right? So we'll just do a quick Google search and see what QPDF is. PDF. But as usual, right? Normally when we are doing hacking and all that stuff, we want to see if it has any available exploits. All right, so we can see some. You can see that it has some exploit, but over here we can see this is Node PDF, Node QPDF. But what we are using is just QPDF. Give me a second. Let me see if I do QPDF. So user then QPDF, and I do help. Let's see if we get the help. Oh, nice. So we get the help screen. We are not getting see the version here. Let me do that version. Okay, we have 10.6.3. So let's go back to our Google search and see whether we can find anything. Any exploits on 10.6.3. Especially after doing this, I didn't find any exploits. So normally when it happens like this, you have to find a way to use the features of that particular application, right, to escalate your privileges. Now this is very interesting because like you don't get to see this on most of the DTF opens. You understand? You are just taking advantage of how the application works, right? Now, what QPDF does is that it allows us to add attachments to PDFs, right? We can embed files in PDFs. Now, immediately you hear embed file in PDF, well, like what comes into your mind? Which means that we can literally embed any file that is on the system as the root user, right? Which means you can embed files that are like we can embed files that belong to the root user, and then we basically have arbitrary file read on the system. So I'm going to test. We are going to test this theory, right? I have a dummy PDF over here. I'm going to get it onto the box, right? Um, okay, so we have to test.pdf. I'm going to transfer test.pdf onto the box. Then we are going to embed a file in that PDF and see whether we can get access to the file later on. Like later on, when we take extra on PDF. So I'm going to start my Python server. It's called test.pdf, okay. And then I'm just going to do a curl. I'm going to do HTB. Alright. I'm currently in the up directory, which I don't have write access to. So let's just go to the temp directory, which is called writable. So I'm just going to do curl HTTP. Uh, 10 dot 10.14. That's I think it was 219, right? And 8,000. And then we are going to get tests. That's PDF. Let's see if this works out. Oh, it says field. I probably had the IP wrong.
214.
Yeah, 214. Probably had the IP wrong. Okay, let's see if we have the PDF here. Alright, so we have the PDF over here. So we are going to use Qubit PDF to try to embed an attachment. Alright, so I'm just going to do a normal search for QPDF to see how it works. Right? So I'm going to look at the documentation for QPDF. There's another way to do it where you can just use the help screen, right? You can use the help that comes to the binary to see how you can use it. But you can also find it on the internet too if you want to. So the sudo tag L. So we have QPDF over here. Let's just copy it. This is sudo QPDF. So what we are interested in is embedding a file into the PDF. So let's just look for that particular side. This is encryption, embed files, attachment. Okay. So when we embed the file, it acts as an attachment, right? So it is. So this is the syntax for attaching files. Okay. So add attachments, right? Add attachments. Then we can specify the file we want to add. For now, I'm just going to use a file that we don't have read access to, right? So I'm going to use Etsy password. No, not password. Etsy shadow. And I would specify the PDF as test.pdf. Let's see if that works out. But let's just look. Okay. So that is it. So add attachment, and then you specify the file you want to add, and then other options over here. I want it. Okay. So this is the file name. This is where we add the file name. I want where we actually provided the PDF that we want to use. Okay, let's just go back and check the help screen. This is QPDF. Add attachments. Okay, let's just test this and see what happens. It says missing at the end of attachment options. Okay. Do another search. Okay, this is just showing us various switches we can use with QPDF. I'm interested in how. So it says QPDF in file options out file. Okay. So the in file must come before the add attachments. So the in file is called test the PDF, and then we need to specify an out file. Out file is called. Let's just call it out.pdf. Right? No, we are still getting errors. Missing dot at the end of attachment options. Okay. Looks like my PDF is damaged, right? I think that particular PDF I have to delete it. I didn't create it properly. So let me just delete test.pdf. This I'm going to get PDF. So I'm going to change this to kill.pdf and then let's see. Okay, so the file gets attached successfully. Now, when we are looking through the documentation, right, there was another option that allows us to show attachments, like the attachments that the particular file has. So let's just look for where is that particular option. I remember it, but I just want to show over here. Okay, if I don't find it here, just all right. So there's another option that says what show attachments. Attachment. It says okay, okay. So show attachments. Then you have to provide the file that you provide the PDF that we used, right? And the output was of the other operation was called output.pdf. An input file name is required. Interesting. Okay, okay, okay. So this actually shows. So we need to specify like the file that is embedded inside the. We need to show the file that's embedded inside the out.pdf, right? But currently, let's assume we don't know, right? And we just want to list the attachments inside. I'm just going to say list attachments. I actually found this. Actually, also saw this list attachment inside. Okay, so you can see we have shadow over here. So next time we are using the show attachment, we can specify that we want to get the shadow. So you can see shadow. Attachments shadow not found. Probably doing it wrong. I have the syntax in my notes. Let me just refer to it. Okay. Okay, so at least it seems that okay, okay, it seems I was giving it the wrong file. So I'm supposed to out the PDF. Okay, you can see we have been able to read the shadow file. Now we have the root users hash over here. You can choose to crack it, but best of luck with that. I don't think you'll be able to crack this. I think it will take a really long time. That is not the intended path, but you can try that. You can still try it and see. So we right now we know that we have like we basically have what should I call it? We basically have file read, like arbitrary file read. So one thing I'm going to try to do is that I'm going to read the root users ID RSC file, right? And then I'm going to embed it into out.pdf. You know, let's call it another name. Let's call it RSC. Let's call it RSC.pdf. Right. So I'm going to embed id.rsc into the kill.pdf, and it's going to save it as rsc.pdf. What am I missing here? There's no file specified. Okay, I think that there shouldn't be an equal to there. Okay, okay, okay. So it's supposed to root.ssh, right? id.rsc, and then it gets embedded. So now we can show the attachments. But before we even do that, let's just list it, right? Let's list the attachment and see whether it's actually there. Attachments.
Oh, you see.
Okay, okay, yeah, yeah. Well, I saved that RAC.pdf, right? Okay, so we have that here. So attachments. Um, and let's call that ID RAC. So what am I missing again? This is show attachment. Okay, so we have the ID RAC file of the root user. We can copy this and then we can SSH into the box, right? So I'm just going to create. Okay. You know what? I'm going to pipe this into a file and call it ID RSA, and then I'll use this file to SSH into the box. I'm going to change the permissions 600 ID what RSA. Then I'm going to SSH to root at localhost, right? And then the identity file is ID underscore RSA. Yes. And we are currently root on the box. Okay. So yeah, I guess that's it for HTB I clean. Any questions? Any questions for me? No one is talking.
What you do? Pause.
Sorry, thanks. All right, so that's it for HTB I clean. If there are any questions relating to the box or maybe about other things, you can ask. The floor is all yours. You can ask. Hey, no response.
Yours. I want to talk about this one. Where you got the password for the database?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I had not seen that part. I
You
don't
didn't
know
see
how.
that part.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was saying that when we got into the machine, right, we were inside the opt app directory. Now that is where the application that we attacked runs, right? So this is the app.py. This is the application that was run, and this is what we have used to get into the box, right? When you cut app.py and you look through the source code, if you scroll up, normally they like to keep configuration details at the top of their script. It's not always the case, right? But most of the time, you configurations at the top. So you can see session, HTTP session cookie only, HTTP session cookie, HTTP only is equal to false. Now, this particular header is supposed to make sure that you can't use JavaScript to tamper with the code. That is if it is set to true, right? If it's set to true, you can't use JavaScript to tamper with it. You can only use HTTP, or it can only be transported with HTTP, and it can only be altered by HTML, right? And then we later on come and see the database configuration over here. We have the host, that's local host. We have the user, that's iClean, the password over here, and then the database, that is copy clean, right? So anytime you want to set something from the database, you will use these credentials to log into the database and run that query.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, so I guess if there are no questions, we can call it a day, right? Uh, Troy, do you have something to say? Dennis, do you also have something to say? Mr. Clement, do you have something to say? Offensive minds, nothing. Pub, pub, pub. I've never seen you in that session before. Is this your first time?
Yeah, this is my first time.
Oh, okay. So are you in our channel? We do this every Wednesday. We do this every Wednesday.
Oh, okay, sure. I guess I'll join it from time to time.
Yeah, we have a Discord channel where we normally drop the link so you can have access to it before even the time.
Okay, sure. Thanks. A
Okay.
very good job done. Keep it up.
Okay, thanks a lot. All right, so I guess if no one has anything to say, we can call it a day. All right, I'll see you guys next week. Bye.